Hello class, today we will be taking the poem Tizzic, which is composed by Edward Braithwaite. Okay, so before going to the poem, we are going to have a discussion on the poet. Okay, so Edward Kamau Braithwaite was a Caribbean poet and he was also a historian from Barbados. It is the name of a place, Barbados, Bados. Okay, and he was well known for he's well known for his uh, work on history, culture, and the struggles of Caribbean people, especially those who are part of the African diaspora. Okay, so his work focuses upon the element as to how Caribbean identity was shaped by colonialization and slavery. Okay, ये सेम एलिमेंट आपको उसमें भी मिला होगा ड्रम्स एंड कलर्स में विच इज़ अ प्ले बाय डेरेक वॉलकॉट राइट. सो अब ज़्यादा समझ में आएगा ये पोम. सो दिस पर्टिकुलर पोम is set in the Caribbean islands, mostly your Trinidad and Tobago, during the time of the Carnival. Okay, Carnival, Carnival. Carnival मतलब जब सब कोई अपने अपने क्लास वगैरह को भूल जाते हैं और सब कोई मिल करके एंजॉय करते हैं. कार्निवल, मेला, राइट. सो this poem is set during this particular time. Okay, so Carnival is a vibrant and joyful festival which is filled with music, right? Dancing, costumes and street parades. देखा होगा आपने इटली में बहुत सारे कार्निवल्स होते हैं. जैसे लाटो मार्टिना कार्निवल, ये तो इटली का है, जिसमें लोग अपने अपने कॉस्ट्यूम्स अलग अलग टाइप के पहनते हैं, डांस करते हैं, गाना गाते हैं, राइट. स्ट्रीट पे परेड वगैरह होता है. सो दिस इज़ व्हाट यू कॉल कार्निवल. ठीक है, पूरे तरीके से इंडियन मेला की तरह नहीं होता है, थोड़ा सा अलग होता है. सो इट टेक्स प्लेस, दिस पर्टिकुलर कार्निवल इन करेबियन आइलैंड्स टेक्स प्लेस बिफोर लेंट. Lent is a period, Lent, Lent is a period, or let's say it is more like a season in Christianity, which is marked by fasting and reflection. Okay, I'm going to discuss more about this particular season. So, Carnival combines the African, European, and the Caribbean traditions, and it serves as a symbol of cultural expression for the Caribbean people. Okay, so the poem here, the word Tizzic. Tizzic is more like a word which refers to a person, राइट, जो वहाँ का नेटिव इंसान है, उसके लिए हो सकता है टिजिक वर्ड यूज़ किया गया. एंड टिजिक अगर ध्यान से सुना जाए तो इट इज़ वेरी म्यूजिकल इन नेचर, इजंट इट. सो इट टेल्स द स्टोरी ऑफ अ पुअर करेबियन मैन नेम टिजिक हु finds escape and happiness through music and dance during the carnival season. Okay, and he is being described as a slave to music, not in a literal way of course, but because he is completely drawn in by the powerful rhythm and joy. Okay, so the word Tizzic captures the lively, chaotic, and the energetic spirit of the festival. जैसे मैंने कहा थोड़ा musical sound हो रहा है, right? So during carnival, this particular man Tizzic, he listens to different kinds of musical instruments like calypso, limbo, steel pan music, different things, and he also gets to listen to his famous musicians like Kitchener, Sparrow, and Dogala, right? ये सब चीज़ इसको सुनने को मिलता है. एंड वाइल ही वॉज इंजॉइंग, ही गेट्स दिस रियलाइजेशन कि कार्निवल तो अब ख़त्म होने पे आ गया है, राइट. बिकॉज राइट आफ्टर कार्निवल आता है आपका ऐश वेडनेसडे. ओके, विच मार्क्स द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द लेंट सीजन. ओके, सो फिर वो वापस अपना सारा सामान बंद करके वापस अपना जा रहा है to lead his own the kind of life he was leading. Okay, so he's in a way he's pulled into the harsh reality of poverty and struggle back again. So initially he was a slave to music, but in the last lines of this poem we are going to see that he becomes a slave again, right? Not to a master of course, but to the difficulties of life. Okay, so in a way the poet is trying to show the contrast between moments of joy and the deeper sadness that lies underneath, right? कि एक तरफ तो हम लोग बहुत खुशी मना रहे हैं, मज़े कर रहे हैं, एंड दूसरी तरफ एक ऐसी लाइफ को रिटर्न करना है जहाँ पे सिर्फ और सिर्फ दुख है, राइट? सो this is what the poet is trying to contrast in this poem, right? And he also highlights the power of music and culture in the lives of Caribbean people. Okay, थोड़ा सा पहले ऐश वेडनेसडे एंड लेंट के बारे में बात कर लेते हैं, अदरवाइज यू वुड नॉट बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस पोम. सो ऐश वेडनेसडे और लेंट, these are used as religious and symbolic events to show the sudden shift from joy to sorrow. So earlier these people were enjoying the carnival, and all of a sudden they get reminded of this whole thing, and they moves back to being melancholic, right? सो और थोड़ा सा जान लेते हैं ऐश वेडनेसडे. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय ऐश वेडनेसडे? ऐश वेडनेसडे इज अ होली डे in the Christian calendar, and it marks the beginning of Lent. Now Lent क्या होता है? It is a 40-day period of fasting, prayer and reflection before Easter. Easter के just पहले ये सीज़न आता है Lent का, जो कि 40 दिन तक चलता है. इसमें जो क्रिश्चियंस हैं वो फास्ट करते हैं और डेली एक पर्टिकुलर टाइम पे वो सब कोई मिल करके कैरल्स गाते हैं, प्रेयर करते हैं जीसस क्राइस्ट को, मदर मैरी को, एंड वो इन्हीं सब चीज़ों के बारे में, लाइक इट इज़ अ सेक्रिफिशियल पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, राइट? सो ऑन ऐश वेडनेसडे क्रिश्चियंस अटेंड दोज चर्च एंड दे रिसीव अ क्रॉस ऑफ एशेस ऑन देयर फॉरहेड्स, ठीक है? एंड the ashes act as a symbol of death, sorrow, and repentance. Okay, and it also reminds people that life is short and that they should live with humility and prepare themselves in a spiritual mindset. Okay, ठीक है? और ऐश वेडनेसडे ये होता है. ओके, सो लाइक आई टोल्ड यू, लेंट क्या होता है? लेंट इज़ अ पीरियड ऑफ 40 days विच कम्स राइट आफ्टर ऐश वेडनेसडे, एंड इट goes on till Easter. Okay, and these are the things which are according to the Christian faith. So Lent is a period of solemn time, solemn kind of time, right, where Christians give up all the pleasures, okay, and they start to have a reflection on their lives. They focus on their relationship with God. Okay, and it also represents the period of the suffering and sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Okay, now why this is being kept in this particular poem? Because in this poem Tizzic, carnival is a period which is full of music, dancing and all sorts of freedom, right? But when Ash Wednesday comes, the whole period of carnival comes to an end, right? So the joyful celebration stops all of a sudden, and the man Tizzic returns to his hard poor life. Okay, so Ash Wednesday and Lent represent a return to reality, suffering and sadness, right? So these two things act as a symbol of the real world. कहाँ कार्निवल में जाके हम एकदम गायब हो जाते हैं, हमें कुछ नहीं याद रहता है, कोई चीज़ नहीं याद रहता है, लेकिन द मोमेंट वी आर बैक टू आवर रियलिटी, तो क्या होता है? वी आर अगैन people who have to face poverty, struggle, emotional pain, है ना? So this is what the role of these two seasons, these two periods are having in this particular poem. It is more not just a religious event. In fact, they stand for the end of happiness and the return to life's harsh truths. Okay, let's go to the poem now. For he was a slave to drums and to flutes, brave, brass and rhythm, the jump up saved him from the thought of holes, damp rain, through the roof of his have nothing cottage, केले कलिंदा स्टैम्प. थोड़ा सा पहले समझ लेते हैं. So he says that he, our person Tizzic was a man who was deeply attached to the sounds of drums, flutes and bold music, and it had control over him like a master have his control over a slave, right? So it is more like a emotional control, right? And the energetic brass instruments and the lively beats are in a way helping him to forget the problems of his life, like the holes in the roof or the dampness in his poor home. Okay, so जो छोटी छोटी चीज़ें, जैसे नहीं घर टूटा हुआ है, कितनी गरीबी है उसके लाइफ में कि घर टूटा हुआ है, रेन इज़ लीकिंग इन टू हिज टाइनी ब्रोकन हाउस, राइट. सो इट इज़ लाइक ही ओन्ड ऑलमोस्ट नथिंग, बट during the period of carnival he could dance to Kele and Kalinda. Now Kele and Kalinda are your African or Caribbean dance styles, ठीक है. And then the limbo, calypso, season camp. These he loved best of all. The road march tram down Princess Street, round Maraville, Kitch, Sparrow, Dogla. These were the stars of his melodic heaven. Their little winking song carried him back to days of green, unhurried growing. So he, our boy Tizzic, he especially loved limbo and calypso music. Now these are the kinds of music which we are talking about, and he enjoyed the marching in the carnival parades down the streets. Okay, he danced through the streets like streets, अलग अलग streets का नाम दिया गया है, which are actual places in Trinidad like Princess Street, Maraville, right. So he admired, Tizzic admired these musical legends like Kitchener, Mighty Sparrow, then Dogala, who were famous calypso singers. Okay, and their music felt like heaven to him. Okay, and their songs reminded him of the peaceful, carefree childhood days when life was simple and full of nature. Okay, the carnival's apotheosis blazed for 2 nights. Apotheosis क्या होता है? ये एक तरीके से you can say perfection. Carnival अपने एकदम peak पे था. Okay, so the carnival's apotheosis blazed for 2 nights without fear or sorrow, color bar or anyone to question or restrain his heightened borrowed glory. So the best and brightest moments of carnival lasted for 2 nights. And during that time, there was no fear, there was no sadness, no racism also, there was no color bar. Okay, no one could question or stop him during this time. Okay, he felt as if he was living a borrowed dream which is full of happiness. Okay, he walked so far on stilts of song of masqueraded story, stars were near, doors of St. Peter's heaven were ajar. So he walked proudly and felt very lifted. Okay, he felt so uplifted by the music and costumes that it was more like he was walking on the stilts made of songs and stories. Okay, he very much felt close to heaven. Okay, like the gates of heaven, which is St. Peter's, as if they were open to him. Okay, Mary, Christ's Christmas mother, was there too, her sweet inclined compassion in full view. So he imagined that even Mother Mary, Jesus, who was Jesus' mother, he was there with all kindness and love, and she was watching him in celebration. Right, watching him celebrate this carnival. Okay, in such bright swinging company, he could no longer feel the cramp of poverty's confinement, spirit's damp. So surrounded by, he was so much surrounded by beauty and joy that he has forgotten his poverty and his sadness that used to weigh him down, right? That used to weigh down his soul. Okay, so he could have all he wished he ever wanted, but the good stilts splintered, wood legs broke, calypso steel pan, rhythm faltered. So all these things was just for a short while. Okay. He felt as if all his dreams and wishes were coming true, but this joy could not last. Like broken stilts or cracked legs, the happy rhythm of the carnival music slowly ended and it broke apart. The midnight church bell fell across the glow, the lurching cardboard crosses. So the church bell rang at the midnight hour and it marks the start of Ash Wednesday. Right. So the glowing joy of carnival comes to an end, starts to fade. Okay, and the cardboard crosses must be it must be a part of their costume. So the cardboard crosses now look very tired and shaky. Okay, behind the mask's grave, Lenten sorrows waited. Ash Wednesday, ashes, darkness, death. So, behind the fun and masks of the carnival that they were using, the sadness of Lent was waiting. Okay, so Ash Wednesday brought back the harsh truth of life, which is ashes, darkness, and the thoughts of death. Okay, after the Bumbalula, he was a slave again. So, after all this dancing and celebration, which is symbolized by these two words that I had difficulty speaking in, Bambula, Bulula, whatever it is, okay. So, it is not just a musical sound. So after all this kind of celebration, he has to return back to his real life, back to being a slave to poverty and hardship. Okay, so the poem tells the story of this poor Caribbean man, Tizzic, who feels very free and very joyful during the carnival time, and music and dance are helping him to escape his difficult life. Okay, but when the carnival comes to an end and the Ash Wednesday begins, the fun is all over, right? Why? Because now the reality returns. He goes back to poverty, struggle, and sadness, right? So the poet, White, he uses music and religion to show the contrast between short moments of joy and the long lasting pain of real life. Okay, now इन दिस फॉर्म मैंने क्लास में भी कई बार आपको बताया था कि वी नीड टू डिस्कस मिखाइल बख्तिन's कार्निवलिस्ट. ओके, why? Because we have to apply this theory to this poem. Okay, that is why. So what is Mikhail Bakhtin's carnivalist theory? See, Mikhail Bakhtin was a Russian thinker, and he was the one who introduced this idea of carnivalism. Now, this idea comes from the way people used to celebrate carnival in medieval Europe. Okay, so during carnival, normal rules and roles and power structures, all these things were turned upside down. जैसे जो किंग्स होते थे वो भी एकदम पेजेंट की तरह ड्रेस हो जाया करते थे, फार्मर्स की तरह ड्रेस हुआ करते थे, नॉर्मल लोगों की तरह ड्रेस हुआ करते थे. एंड जो नॉर्मल लोग हुआ करते थे, द पीजेंट्स, दे यूज टू एक्ट एज इफ दे वर किंग. ओके, तो इस तरह से सारी जो बाउंड्रीज थी, जो सोशल रोल्स थे, जो सबको अपने अपने रोल्स को निभाना पड़ता था सोसाइटी में रहने के लिए, वो सारे रोल्स से दे बिकेम फ्री एंड दे यूज टू become people who could speak freely, and they can even mock authority and religion without any kind of fear of punishment. Okay, so for Bakhtin, the carnivalist was not just a festival, rather it was a way of breaking the social rules and creating freedom. Even though it is of course it is a short period of time only जब ये सब हो सकता है, even then it is a medium through which they were breaking the social rules, right? And they were able to have more freedom. So it allowed laughter, freedom of speech, and equality in the world that was usually full of strict rules, seriousness, and control. Okay, so he believes that this whole element of carnivalesque is also a form of resistance. Why? Because it allowed people to express what they normally couldn't. Okay, it was full of humor, chaos, bodily joy, such as your eating, dancing, drinking, right, and also imagination. So it offered more like a space where the poor, the oppressed people, and the ordinary people could feel free and powerful for a short period of time, right? Now, coming to this particular poem, how this can be applied on this poem Tizzic. So, the poet uh, has reflected upon the many ideas of Bakhtin's carnivalesque in this poem Tizzic. How? Because in this poem as well, carnival becomes a space where a poor man who is normally suffering under poverty and sadness he is able to find some sort of freedom, some sort of joy and self worth, right? So, just like in Bakhtin's theory, the poem shows how carnival allows people to escape the rules of everyday life. And it is during these 2 nights of music, dance, costume party, the man, Tizzic, feels equal. He feels powerful and free. He is no longer limited by his social position. And he himself says that he becomes a part of the world where there is no color bar, there is no racism, there is no poverty, and there is no sadness, right? So he walks on stilts of song and he feels as if the doors of heaven are opened for him, right? So this is a very good example of the upside down kind of world, which is symbolic of the carnivalist period, right? Where the weak people can feel strong, where the poor people can feel rich, right? Even though it's a very short period of time, जब ये रहेगा, even then ये हो रहा है, right? So the poem also includes several things. For example, your masquerade, right? Mask लगा करके parade में जाना, then your music, laughter, then the freedom of expression. So all these are key parts of your Bhaktan's idea, right? And that is why we can say that this idea of Mikhail Bakhtin was applied to this poem Tizzic. Okay, so the man Tizzic becomes a part of the world, right? Where there is no color bar, like I told you, right? So just like Bakhtin's view, the freedom डज नॉट लास्ट फॉर एवर. सिर्फ कार्निवल पीरियड के लिए ही वो सारी फ्रीडम मिली हुई थी लोगों को, राइट? बट द मोमेंट द कार्निवल एंड्स and the period of Ash Wednesday begins, the normal world returns, right? The man is back a slave again, not in chains, but to poverty and hardship, right? So, this return to sadness and order after the joy of carnival reflects the temporary nature of the carnivalist period, right? It is more like a break from reality, not a permanent change is being reflected over here, right? क्यों कार्निवल में क्या होता है? इज इट अ परमानेंट चेंज? नो. कार्निवल कुछ दिन के लिए रहते हैं, वापस फिर आपको रियलिटी में आना पड़ता है, राइट? तो सेम जैसा बख्तिन ने बोला था वैसे ही आपको तिज़िक में भी देखने को मिल जा रहा है, राइट? सो that is how his theory, carnivalesque, helps us to understand how carnival in the poem is not just a party, it is rather um, a little amount of time in which, or let's say, it is a space in which you can have the feeling of being escaped, right? Being escaped from the social resistance, right? So it gives the man dignity, some sort of dignity, joy, and even voice through through the freedom that is short lived, right? So through the lens of carnivalesque, Tizzic uh, becomes a poem which is about how people are oppressed, right? How people are oppressed, and how culture, music, and celebration act as a way to resist their pain and create meaning in their lives, right? So that's all in this poem. Thank you.